Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cavs Insider. Officially, we can call it an NBA Finals edition. I'm Dan Labbe. The Cavaliers back to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2007, just the second time in franchise history, both, of course, with a guy wearing number 23 named LeBron James. They swept the Hawks, finished them off last night 4-0. They are now, they've lost just 2 playoff games, and we're going to talk to Joe Vardon. We're going to talk to Chris Fedor today about the Cavaliers, what they did against the Hawks, and what they're going to do against, most likely, the Golden State Warriors. As promised, let's go ahead and bring in Joe Vardon first. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good to be, good to take a step away from all that we've seen and kind of watched as a community, and just kind of get ready for what's to come next week.
All right, Joe. This 8 days off between games. On the one hand, from a health perspective, it's really good for this team. On the other hand, they were playing really sharp basketball against the Atlanta Hawks, probably some of their best basketball of the season. Some of that could have been the opponent. Some of that could have been momentum. Is there a downside to having this much time off?
No, there's not. And there's a couple reasons for that. And I think the first one is this is their, I want to say, third long layoff. I mean, maybe fourth if you count those 5 days, I think it was, before the playoffs began way back in April. And I think, like, before the Hawks series, I think they were off 6 days or something like that. And before it was 8 days before the Chicago series. So, no, I think that they'll know how to handle this. I expect the Warriors to take care of business tonight, so their layoff will be 1 day shorter. And from a rest perspective, I mean, we can talk as much or as little about that as you want, but this team needs rest. And so I think that the layoff comes at a great time.
Now let's talk about LeBron James and his performance against the Hawks. And really you can track it back even against the Bulls. LeBron, when he went down to Miami, sort of became this super efficient player. He was always an efficient player. And then over the last, really, like I said, in the series against the Hawks, that series against Chicago, kind of lost some of that efficiency because he knew he had to carry the load a little bit. What have you thought of how LeBron has played, really going back to Chicago through last night?
Well, I've thought very, very highly of how he's played, and I thought that things got really silly in the Chicago series early on when people were almost obsessed with his shooting percentage. I mean, he was almost averaging a triple-double then, and he almost did it now in this series. And, it took a few more shots to do it, but he understood how to get this team to where it needed to be. It's like if he's an artist, what he's painting is still a masterpiece, just that maybe the canvas is a little wider. He needs a little bit more room, but the brilliance is still right there in the center. He is the primary reason and sort of just the cog, if you will, as to why the Cavs have a great chance in the next round, just because of what he's doing and how the guys around him are responding.
Joe, when you sit down and talk about LeBron James, there's just certain games in his playoff career that stand out. Of course, there were those 2 games against the Pistons in 2007, Game 3 and Game 5. There was that game when he was with Miami against Boston facing elimination, and he put up an amazing performance. Does Sunday's performance against the Hawks, when Atlanta played gritty, dragged the Cavs into overtime, LeBron was hurting, and we know LeBron can be a little dramatic, but he was clearly hurting in that game. Does that Sunday game rank up there with the LeBron all-time great performances?
Statistically it has to, if only because no one has ever had a playoff line like that. 37, 18, and 13. It's outrageous. So from a purely numbers perspective, yeah. But from a contextual standpoint, I would put that behind the other games that you mentioned. And just one of the reasons is just simply because they owned the Hawks. This was a sweep. That was in Game 3 with 2-0 lead. You know, even if Atlanta somehow sneaks that game out, I don't believe they win the series. Whereas the Detroit game, you know, swung that series in 2007. The Boston game staved off elimination. I mean, those were when they had to have it. And I would even say I liked the Game 5 against the Bulls better. 38 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and no turnovers. I thought that one ranked up there because it was a swing game, you know, against a tough opponent that had not yet been stamped out. And so, but yeah, I mean, but when you kind of, you know, years from now, when you look back and look at how LeBron played overall in this series, it was just amazing. And he's never lost to the Hawks. I think, now, I mean, I could be wrong here, but it's fairly likely true that the Hawks are the only team that have never beat him in the playoffs among the teams who he's played. They just, for whatever reason, they really struggle with him, and everybody does. But I mean, he owned them in this series. It was not close.
All right, let's talk about the David Blatt-LeBron relationship and how that has evolved. Because there was a moment last night, and of course you were at the arena, but on the telecast they showed a mic'd-up moment between David Blatt and LeBron James. And you know, David Blatt basically said along the lines, for everything you've done for this team, everything you've done for this city, you deserve this. How has that relationship between those two key members of this franchise, frankly, how has that evolved?
Well, they're in the finals. So that's not nothing. You know, I mean, it's very easy, and it's not. It is very easy to offer a revisionist history when things are going so well, and it's not really worth to spend a lot of time waving your arms and saying, "Wait a minute, this wasn't true." But you know, last night when LeBron was running through the litany of obstacles that this team faced, and he said they wanted Blatt fired. Well, you know, I think we should be clear that they is a large encompassing word, and it would have encompassed people at the podium at the time LeBron said it last night. That's just the way it was, and there was a time where LeBron needed to step away from the team, in part because of his body, but also in part because he had to get his mind right about who it was that he was going to have to work with this year, and he decided to let that happen. And since then, their relationship has grown. There's no question about it. They work much better together now than they did then. LeBron still takes his opportunities to take shots at David when he finds it convenient, and it was convenient in the Chicago series. You know, they swept the last 4 games, and so, you know, things feel really good right now. But like I said, that's all stuff that happened before this moment. You know, you're here now. You're in the finals now. As David said, that this is why he left his family behind in Israel to come here. And LeBron has been talking about, well, this is why he came home, one of the reasons. And it's like, you know, this is his 5th finals in a row, and he's 30 years old. You're not guaranteed this every year. And you know, for the 5th straight year, LeBron is going to play more basketball than anybody else in the league. And at some point, that's going to catch up. So it's like you don't get this opportunity all the time. So whatever situations you dealt with leading up to this moment, whatever the relationships were and how they grew over time, you have to bury whatever, you know, lingering issues there are right now and focus on this opportunity that you have in front of you, because it might not happen next year. And those are the laws of averages.
All right, Joe, it's early. We're 8 days away. We don't even officially know the opponent yet. So if you don't want to make a prediction, that's fine. But do you have an early feel or an early prediction for a possible matchup with Golden State?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm going to be in the minority. I'm going to pick the Cavs. I'm almost sure of it, barring something that happens in practice in a negative manner with the Cavs. And again, almost every national pundit will pick the Warriors. That's kind of the hot thing to do. The Western Conference is so mighty to the Eastern Conference, and Steph Curry is, a deity, and is just, he's unflappable, and those are all the things that you're going to hear, that they are so far superior to anybody that the Cavs have played, that the Cavs will not be able to handle this. And I don't buy that. I don't believe that. I'm not sure that the Cavs are going to win this series. I can see many reasons why they wouldn't. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing to watch. It's going to be a grind. But I think the Cavs' defense is vastly underrated. That there is a reason why they've only lost 2 games, and a one reason beyond just the fact they have LeBron. They are defending well enough to win it all, and that is going to be a thing. Because Golden State, for as great as they are, and Curry, I think he's awesome, but they are a jump shoot first team. And if you are a perimeter defensive team like the Cavs, who rebounds like the Cavs, and the ball's not falling for Golden State, that could be a problem. So I think it's going to be just a battle of all battles, and it could go either way. And so I'm going to pick the team that I picked in October to win. I'm going to stick with the Cavs.
All right. Look, I've been going back and forth since last night trying to figure out, trying to make my pick. So who knows? It should be a fun series regardless. Joe, thanks for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so Joe Vardon, there you go. He has the Cavaliers winning. Charles Barkley as well picked the Cavaliers. It's going to be an interesting series, and it's hard to bet against the guy wearing number 23. The Warriors, though, a very good basketball team. They cause a lot of matchup problems as well for the Cavs. We'll see how it goes. But again, on the one hand, you say who's going to shut down Steph Curry. On the other hand, you say who's going to shut down LeBron James. Is Kyrie Irving going to be healthy? How are the role players going to perform? How are the Warriors going to deal with the Cavaliers' size? That was the thing that Charles Barkley pointed out. There's a lot to look at as we dig into this series. And Joe Vardon, like he said, he picked the Cavaliers way back in October. And he's sticking with that pick here moving forward into the NBA Finals. That series will start on Thursday. It'll be a 9 o'clock-ish tip shortly after 9. Then it'll come back to Cleveland the Tuesday after. Game 2 will be on Sunday. All right, let's talk to our next guest, Chris Fedor. He joins us via phone. Fedor, how you doing?
What's going on, Dan?
Not too much. The Cavs back in the NBA Finals, Chris. And I was just talking to Joe Vardon a little bit about the Warriors. We're going to assume that they wrap this thing up tonight or maybe the next game after that. When you look at the Warriors, let's take Steph Curry out of the equation. Who's the biggest matchup problem for the Cavaliers?
Whoever Kyrie Irving is guarding. I'll go with that. That's my answer at this point because, if you want to take Kyrie off of Steph, I can understand why you want to do that. But then, what, do you put him on Klay Thompson? Are you going to put him on Harrison Barnes so Harrison Barnes can take him down into the post and knock down jumper after jumper after jumper and pull off all these post moves against Kyrie? Are you going to put him on Draymond Green? The problem is if LeBron checks Curry or Iman Shumpert checks Curry, there's going to be a mismatch somewhere else because Kyrie is less than 100%, because he's shown himself to be a defensive liability while dealing with this injury, and I'm not sure this injury can get back to 100% before this season comes to an end. So my answer is whoever the Cavs have to put Kyrie on, because if you think about this series, they took him off Jeff Teague last night and they put him on Kent Bazemore. They were able to do that because Kent Bazemore is not an offensive threat. Golden State has 5 offensive threats every single time they take the court, and I just don't know where you can hide Kyrie.
LeBron James, of course, when you look at Atlanta, they just ran out of bodies to throw at the guy. Of course, Cephalosha was hurt before the series started. DeMarre Carroll got hurt early in the series. You had Kent Bazemore guarding LeBron James at times. Paul Millsap as well guarded him at times. How is Golden State going to deal with LeBron James?
Well, your only chance when it comes to playing against LeBron is having a great individual defender like Jimmy Butler or a great individual defender like Kawhi Leonard and have that guy go one-on-one against LeBron and hope for the best, hope that he can contain him enough, bring down his efficiency enough, and then you can handle the other guys for the Cavs. You don't allow those guys to explode and get loose. That was the game plan for the Orlando Magic the first time that LeBron was here in Cleveland. They put Michael Petras on him for a majority of the time, and they tried to guard everybody else, and they used Dwight Howard behind him so that he could protect the rim. Golden State's just going to keep throwing bodies at him because they don't have the individual defender like Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, Dan. They don't. Harrison Barnes is not that guy. Andre Iguodala is not that guy. You can say what you want to about Draymond Green and how good he played this year, being named to the first-team all-defensive team, but nobody on that team is capable of doing what Jimmy Butler did in the Chicago series. So what they're going to do, I think, Dan, is they're going to play like 10 minutes of Harrison Barnes and then 15 minutes of Andre Iguodala, then some Draymond Green, maybe even some Sean Livingston, Klay Thompson. The advantage that Golden State has that Atlanta doesn't, they've got more bodies to throw at LeBron. And I think that could take its toll in a 7-game series.
Now, Chris, these numbers changed a little bit last night in that blowout win for the Cavaliers. But there was a point in real time last night where if you looked at J.R. Smith's numbers, you looked at Iman Shumpert's numbers, they were both over 50% shooting three-pointers for that series against Atlanta. That doesn't seem very sustainable, but what can we expect out of those two guys against Golden State?
Well, Dan, it's sustainable if teams are going to give those guys open looks.
That's
and
true.
I know JR in game one, he had those crazy shots where he was taking off balance threes and he was stepping into threes, but other times they were open looks. If you watch Iman Shumpert, it seemed like Atlanta was just willing to let him take that three-pointer and live with the results. It's something that they invited him to do. And kudos to Shump because for a majority of the series, he was able to knock down that open shot and make the defense pay. But LeBron puts you in a pickle. And that's why I think it goes back to if you go one-on-one against LeBron, that allows you to stay close to Shumpert, and that allows you to stay close to J.R. Smith and Kyrie and Delly and all those other shooters that he's surrounded with. But if you start collapsing towards the paint and you try and send more bodies at LeBron, 2, 3 guys, it's going to open up open looks for these guys. And the Cavs are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. They were in the regular season. They are in the postseason. And a big reason for that, Dan, is because they're getting open looks. And if Iman Shumpert's going to continue to get open looks and JR is going to continue to get open looks, I think the Cavs are going to continue to burn teams. So if they get the looks that they got against Atlanta, Dan, I think it's sustainable for those guys to be in the 40% range, which is good enough to win a series. But if Golden State doesn't defend the way that Atlanta defended and hugs up on those guys and contests those shots a little bit more, then you're probably going to see that percentage dip a little bit, maybe in the mid-30s where it was in the regular season for both guys.
Is that maybe what this series could come down to for the Cavaliers if guys like JR and Iman Shumpert, a healthy-ish Kyrie Irving, Matthew Dellavedova, if those guys, like you said, can continue to hit threes and almost match Golden State shot for shot?
Yes, I think that's the story of the series. I think the other guys around LeBron James, how much he gets from the help around him, because Golden State has 5, 6 guys that can go out there and average double figures. Golden State can go out there and make 10 threes a game, 12 threes a game. They made 20 the other night against Houston, 20 in a losing effort. Very few teams so far in this playoff run, Dan, have been able to keep up with the Cavs when it comes to the three-point shot. It's been a huge weapon for the Cavs. So if JR's making shots and Delly's making shots and Shump and Kyrie and James Jones, I'm not sure there's a team in the NBA that can beat the Cavs in a 7-game series. But if the three-point makes start going down, Dan, to like 7 a game, maybe 6 a game, maybe 5 a game, at times that's what happened against Chicago in the Eastern Conference semis, then Golden State will be able to hang with that.
Man, Daryl Morey is going to have such mixed emotions about this series. This is his brand of basketball that's going to be playing out between the Cavaliers and Golden State, and unfortunately the Warriors are going to beat his team to get there. Chris, I asked Joe Vardon for an early prediction. He's sticking with the Cavs. What do you think?
You're doing this to me already. Already? I don't even know who's going to be in the final.
I'll give you an out. If, it's early. You can change your mind between now and next Thursday.
So the way that I'm leaning right now is that it's very, very difficult for me to convince myself to pick against this version of LeBron James. He's a different guy right now. He's got so much confidence in himself. He's got so much confidence in his teammates. And I think that's the biggest change when it comes to LeBron, Dan. If you go back to the beginning of the season, before the Cavs pulled off the trades that they pulled off, he wasn't a confident guy because he looked around the locker room, and he's won 2 championships. So he knows what it takes to win championships, and he knows the kind of teammates that he needs to have. Earlier this season, I really felt that LeBron was looking around that locker room and saying, nope, these guys aren't good enough to get it done. But throughout this playoff run, with the contributions of Delly and Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert, seemingly a different guy every single night stepping up to be that third option offensively for the Cavs, there's a new sense of confidence that I'm seeing with LeBron. And I just can't pick against him at this point. He's too good right now. He's on another level.
Do you think, I'll throw in one more question looking at LeBron, that as this season has played out, and now as the playoffs have played out and the Spurs went down, the Clippers went down, the Warriors, as good as they are, aren't a team with that championship experience.
Right.
Kevin Durant got hurt and didn't play much this season. Do you kind of get the sense from LeBron that maybe he's seen as this has evolved this season, hey, I know my team is banged up too, but I've got a real chance to do it this year, which is maybe something he didn't expect coming into it?
I don't think LeBron would ever admit this, Dan, and I don't think the Cavs would ever admit this, but I feel like deep down, if you gave them some truth serum, the minute that they felt like they could realistically win an NBA championship is the minute that San Antonio got knocked out of the playoffs. I think if you gave the Cavs a list of the teams that they absolutely did not want to face in the postseason, San Antonio would be on the top of that list because of their playoff experience, because of Greg Popovich, because they have a defender like Kawhi Leonard who has given LeBron James nightmares in the past, because they've got the home court advantage, and it's very, very difficult to win in San Antonio. When you took them out of the equation, I think the Cavs looked at the landscape in the NBA and said, we could do this here. Memphis has never been there. Golden State hasn't been there. There's only a few guys on Houston that have been there. James Harden, Dwight Howard, Trevor Ariza, Jason Terry. So I think if the Cavs go in against Golden State, they're going to be confident. And I don't know the numbers on this one, Dan, but I can't remember a time that a team with 0 NBA Finals games under their belt won an NBA championship. Maybe it's been done. Maybe I'm missing it. But not a single player on the Golden State roster has been in the NBA Finals, and that's going to loom, I think.
Yeah, it's that's interesting. Somebody's going to have to look that up because I can't really think of anybody either off the top of my head. Chris Fedor, go get some sleep.
All right, Dan, I'll do that.
All right, Chris Fedor joins us. Joe Vardon joined us earlier. The NBA Finals start on Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday. The NBA declined to take that move up date to Tuesday, so they will start next Thursday, June the 4th at 9 p.m. It goes Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday until you get to a possible Game 7. That would be on Friday, June 19th. All the tips except for the Sunday games are at 9 p.m. Those Sunday games tip at 8. That'll do it for another edition of Cavs Insider. We'll be with you throughout the finals. I am Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching.